Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm really excited to be able to have all of you here and kind of want to talk to you a little bit about AI as it pertains to. I want to talk to you about AI as it pertains to Photoshop and Lightroom. So let's just go ahead and start. The AI part, like all of the stuff that we were doing inside of Lightroom, is kind of nuts in that there's so much stuff that you can actually do that I think that it's really redefining a lot of how we work with most of this stuff, right? And like these days, I'm just going to try the chat one more time. The chat, come here, because I'm watching the chat as I'm doing all of this stuff. I think that a lot of the stuff that happened in on the AI, let me see what it says. We can't type in the chat. What? Allie's probably on it. So, Allie, if you can hear me, please enable the chat. Vamos al chat. So, thank you for telling me about that. I didn't know why you can't type in the chat, but we got to figure that out. ¿Dónde está the chat? To the chat, to the chat. I hate technical difficulties. Lord, do they bug me. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff that changed on the Photoshop AI side, but I thought it would be a good idea for us to kind of talk a little bit about how to be able to work with most of this. So let's start from a very, very straightforward, a very simple setup here. I'm just going to go to screen 2. We'll turn that on. And so this is a picture. So it says we can only type in the thing. All right. So we'll have somebody try to take a look at that. We'll see what happens with the participants and if they can change that. But right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go into the develop module. Right from inside of the develop module, things that I think that you could immediately start using. Right before, what would happen with most of this stuff is you would either have to make changes inside of your develop module here, right? Drop an exposure, double click to be able to reset it, or you would have to use a brush. And a lot of the times the brush, I gotta be honest with you, was a little eh. Oh, it looks like the organizing the panelists now can see. Can everybody see our screen? So they're looking at the chat. So something must be happening there. But what would happen inside of here is if you wanted to be able to make a change, I don't think that the brush was really all that refined, right? As good as you could want it to be. So I gotta be honest, a lot of the times I was just like, you know what, man, I'm just gonna go into Photoshop. Like I'm gonna bring it into Photoshop and I'm gonna do all of that stuff. But now we have a brand new way to be able to kind of work with most of this stuff. And I think it's a good idea for us to just kind of jump in and see it. All of these masks that we have here, right, directly under this brush, right, on the masking brush, you have now an option to be able to do subject, sky, and background. We'll start with the very, very basics for most of this stuff. If you wanted to be able to grab a subject, boom, click on the subject, and now you're done, right? Inside of here, I can make this brighter, make this darker, add a little bit of contrast, and that's pretty easy. You'll notice that right here on this side, you have now a mask. And these masks are a little different from the masks that you saw in the earlier versions of Lightroom, in that these are now pixel-based masks, which you can see right here, right? So there's this black section and then there's white section, and they're using a lot of that Sensei technology to kind of create these masks. But these masks are very different than the masks that you were used to using previously for like the linear gradient and the radial gradient. But they're pretty easy to use, right? It creates this mask panel, and you'll see that here you have the subject. If you hover over it, it shows you the subject, and it tells you, oh, that was constructed by this select subject. Now, if you want to delete that, we'll go ahead and we'll start from a very basics part here, is you click on this and you can rename the mask, invert the mask, you could delete the mask, gone. Right? So all of this stuff so far, pretty straightforward, right? breaking the knowledge bank here. If I want to change the sky, right? Oh, look at that. Couldn't find a sky to select. Oh, that's kind of weird. Huh. Oh, there's no sky, right? This is not a sky. Go to background. Boosh. There we go. Background's done. Now, from inside of here, I can go ahead and I can grab this, darken the background. And what I like is like, look at the adjustments that it's done here, right? So this is my friend Alexis, a lot of wispy hair, looks pretty good. And all of that stuff is taken care of. Like before, again, if I want, I can grab this mask, I can rename it, or I can delete it altogether. Now, automatically, so it looks like we have some questions already coming in. Is there a benefit to using the masking in ACR versus masking in a layer stack inside of Photoshop? That's a great question, Rob. For me, one of the reasons that I think that it's going to be really cool to do this in this one section in Photoshop, inside of Lightroom, is that a lot of the stuff that you're doing here is going to be based on the actual raw data, right? If you started stacking a series of effects inside of Photoshop with layers, then all of this stuff would automatically be cooked. So you're not going to get the latitude in the file that you would really want to have for that. So that would be something that it would be better for you to do it with raw data versus not. So I'm deleting you from the mask thing because it looks like we're still not working on the chat thing. Now, from here, I'm going to go ahead and that's all pretty straightforward, right? So far, so good. That's easy. When using the selections, when select subject, background, and sky, how can one feather the selection? So inside of here, if you grab your background, right, you have all of this stuff set up here. And one of the things that you have to keep in mind is that you don't have that option to kind of grab that. Now, what you can do is you could subtract, right? And once we subtract, notice when you click on the subtract section, you have a bunch of different things that you can use from inside of here. So you can grab some of this and roughen this up or sharpen this by, let's say, for example, using a brush. And then inside of here, you would adjust the feather of said brush to kind of adjust some of that stuff there. So that's how I would do that. Thanks. Good to know about the benefit of working with the image. And yes, Rob, that's the part that I think is really cool, right? So far we haven't done anything kind of crazy, but very impactful. Watch this. If I come over here, and I was just working on this right before we actually started. I'm going to import these pictures that I did of Monument Valley. All right. So instead of, oh, there was something that was damaged in there. Right? So you see this one file here. Looks okay. Looks kind of cool, right? But if I were to go into the develop module, and inside of the develop module, if I used a linear gradient and I drag the gradient, and just to kind of overview for the linear gradient, right? If you drag it and you drag it straight down, if you want to be able to keep it straight, hold down the shift key. That's pretty good. Any area that's above this has 100% of the effect. Any area that's below the bottom one over here has 0% of the effect. And then the transition happens in the middle. More often than not, when people wanted to do all of this kind of stuff inside of Lightroom, what they would do is they would grab this linear gradient and they would start it here and then end it down here, right? So if you did this, now what would happen is, all right, well, you got a lot of detail, right? Because it was a raw file, but you have this solid line that's kind of going across here, much like when you were using a filter before, an actual photo filter. So not good. I can grab this and I can delete this. Now, if I went to select sky, it does a really, really good job about pulling that sky out of there. And watch this. If I darken this, there's a lot of information that I could use for that. Right? I can go ahead and drop my exposure. I could increase my whites, maybe give myself a little bit of contrast. And now using a backslash key, before, after, before, after, that's not bad, right? Keeping it simple. Questions on any of this stuff so far? I'm gonna scroll down so that I could kind of see this. Let's go ahead and stop this. Oh, yeah. Okay, here. So sorry about that. I'm gonna come back over here. I'm gonna go to that picture of Alexis. Let's say that it was this one, right? Inside of the develop module, we're gonna do a select subject, whoosh, right? And now let's just say, not that I would do this to Alexis, but let's just say that I overexpose it, right? You're talking about if I hover this area right here, right, that's selected. Well, inside of here with this mask, you have the option to click on the three dots, or actually click on the mask itself, and now you can add or subtract. So you could subtract with a brush. And now just subtract that one section. Now that's gone from that area. And now I can come back in here and do some stuff with Alexis. And now that looks a little bit better. So let's see. So that's good. That's good. That's good. Ali, if you could do me a favor, and if you're in the chat, just please grab all of the I can't hear you and get rid of those so that we could actually just get to the questions. So only the question box, on the question box. Jen Sung is the, hey, Jen Sung. Oh, my buddy Ali's here also. Thank you so much. Thanks, good to know. So anything above Rob Aber, I would say we could just get rid of, right? Tom, let me know if that helped you, all right? If that gets rid of all of that. So how do you get rid of the pin marker when you move the cursor back over to where the sliders are, right? So inside of here, this little pin marker that we have here will go away as soon as you kind of bring yourself over to this one section. So the AI does not make the adjustments. It thinks it should. So the AI does not make the adjustments it thinks should be. No, the AI that they're using here, and I think that that's a really good point. The AI that they're using here is just being used for the concept of selections, not necessarily for the adjustments themselves, right? Which I think really does speed up a lot of that workflow, right? Having a selection, I gotta be honest, like the selection of the hair in this one area would be super hard for you to be able to do previously in Lightroom with a brush to get around all of these little wisps. Now, by just clicking on one thing and just going, all right, well, I want to be able to grab that and I want to darken it, I could just go subject, boom, and it takes care of all of that. So that's doing out some of that heavy lifting for me there. Now, is there equivalent of select and mask for that hair in Lightroom Photoshop? It does a pretty good job, but what if we want to be able to refine more? We'll talk about that in a second. All right, I'm gonna make sure that I keep that one there. But so far, I think we're doing okay. I don't know if we wound up getting the chat set up. Ali, we can check over here. Hey, hey, hey. See if the chat's going. I want to make sure that we could get that going. Don't understand why not. Let me see. Send chat message, copy, nothing, nothing, nothing. Who knows? I'm sure it'll be there for some reason. We'll kind of try to figure that out. Anyway, before I continue with all of this stuff, all right, thanks for stopping by for most of this. Let me go ahead and just kind of stop sharing here so that I can just talk to you. We kind of had a little bit of a rough start, so I figured I'd just spend some time just saying hi and seeing how everybody's doing, and just doing a quick thank you, because I wanted to, before I go into something else, I wanted to kind of share that one of the things that that I'm excited about for all of this is that because of all my schedule now at school and working with, as in case some of you don't know, right? So I work now full time as a professor at Syracuse University teaching, right? Which is what I've always wanted to do, right? Shocking. Uh, a lot of what I wanted to kind of work with is just to kind of work with students and do all that kind of thing. But I got to be honest, like after a little bit of a social media detox, I've really wanted to kind of get back and just talk to people and just kind of do some stuff on social. And that part kind of made me go, all right, well, how could I do this? How can I work with this? And we started a little bit with some summer school that we did with BenQ, but I wanted to be able to just kind of stop and take a second to thank BenQ for all of this kind of stuff because they've always been the group that whenever I'm like, oh, I want to be able to do something and, I'm going to need resources or I need this or I need a monitor or I need to be able to send somebody something. BenQ's always been really cool about just going, hey, look, happy to help, happy to work on some stuff. So they're the people that are driving a lot of the cost for a lot of this. And I was like, you know what? Cool. If it can get me out to talk to all of you, then awesome. One of the things that they did say, though, is that they want to start this as a constant conversation. And we're just going to have to keep bombing the questions if it doesn't work there. So you can just leave your responses there. But my computer's not wanting to play nicely with the webinar platform. We should have to restart the broadcast for me to be the organizer. Ooh, he is not good. We don't want to do that. Let's not restart. Let me see if I can do it this way. Ali, now I made you the organizer. Let's see if that does it. Please continue. Thank you very much, Ali. So maybe with Ali being the organizer, he can go ahead and actually start working on all this, but we'll see. The short of it is that they've always been really cool about working with most of that stuff. I've been a BenQ user for a bit now. Their monitors are fantastic. One of the things that I would tell you is this would be the promo, right? Like inside of here, the monitors that I'm using are the PhotoView monitors, right? The 321Cs. They're not going to like this. So I always hesitate. Like, I'm just like, oh, crap, you're going to say something and get somebody upset. But I tend to use this monitor, right? So I have like the 32-inch monitor, right? Like the big one. And I use it at school. And to the right of it, I actually have a non-BenQ monitor. I know. But I started taking more and more people to kind of do like classes and stuff like that inside of my office because it's a perfect example to be able to show kind of the calibration part, right? The monitor, the 321C, is accurate out of the box. It's good. That's the one that I use. The one on the right is the one that I use for like panels and layers and just basically the interface stuff. But the final stuff happens on the big monitor on the 321 because it's color accurate. And when you look at both of them, like it's night and day of a difference, right? I wish we could come up with a way to have a system where we can turn around and say, all right, well, I'm going to put one in a box and send it to you, unplug it and check it. Because I think that a lot of the times if you see it, then you're like, oh, okay, I get it now, right? It's super important. So make sure you take a look at that on the BenQ website. They're going to send me a link also for something if you've bought a BenQ if you bought a BenQ monitor and you want to get something, get put into a drawing for like a Pantone thing, a Pantone Connect, they're going to send that as well. So they'll put that in the chat. I wanted to mention that just to be able to say thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you give me the option to do that. So taking a second to be able to do that would be cool. Now that I've done that, it looks like the chat is only for presenters, panelists, and organizers to check with each other, not with the attendees. Boo! And that's crazy because it's like I could see all of you that are in there in the chat. I'd love to send you a message. Anyway, we'll figure it out. So let's go ahead and go to the next thing, right? Because there's Alexis. I want to try to find a cool picture that we can work with. Something that I think is a little bit better, right? So there's my wife, Jen, and Sabine hanging out at the fair, right? And I'm going to go into the develop module. And inside of the develop module, I'm going to go into my masks. I wanted to show something that was pretty cool. Check this out. We talked about subject, sky, background. That's easy, right? Where's the sky? Click on the sky. There's the sky. Done. drop down the exposure, increase the contrast. Not that I want to make it that electric, but it's there if I need it. Now, the other thing is we talked about the subjects, right? I'm going to go over here, delete this mask, and I'm going to go to subject. Boosh, immediately it knows those are the subjects. Make them brighter, make them darker. Got it. That's great. Oh, there's my subjects. Now, what if I want the subject and the sky together, right? I want to do one, well, not together, but just one adjustment for one and another adjustment for another. Here, you have an option to just create the mask. And notice that that thing that you had before, right? If I get rid of this, you have this option here, subject, sky, background. Let's just say that I make an adjustment here. Now you don't have that subject sky background right here because you're making the adjustment for that one individual effect. But if you click on this plus sign, now you have subject, sky, background, effect, all of the stuff that we had before. So that just kind of moves over to this one section. From here, I'm just going to go ahead and select sky. And now notice that I have mask 1, which is the family, and mask 2, which is the sky. So now drop that. Not bad. So you can continue to add these masks as you need them. But this is where I think it gets a lot cooler because, or I'm going back to check the questions here. I'm going to keep going. Calibrate. Do you have to calibrate the BenQ? Does it it comes automatically calibrated? If it were me, I would actually get a calibrator. Make sure that you put one. I think we're going to try to do a webinar to talk about calibration and all that stuff, and we'll bring some people in to kind of work with that. Do you need software to calibrate? I would use a Calibrate Monitor. 30-day trial. No, I think it's actually they're giving one away, right? So I think it's more than that. So Paris is here. He can see the chat. I think that has something to do with not so you can see the chat, but I don't think you can type in the chat. I want to make sure that I'm not ignoring you, which is why I keep stopping and checking the chat. But here's something that I think is pretty cool. Inside of here, what if I wanted to be able to do the floor? Right? I don't know why, but let's just say that I want to do the floor. We can send you the questions when you're ready to take them, right? Okay. So this floor, what if I want it to be darker, right? And I don't want to use like super crazy portrait, like portfolio pics, because a lot of the times it's just like the pictures that we want to work with, just the odds and ends. Watch this. I'm going to create a new mask and I'm going to click on a linear gradient. My linear gradient then is going to go from here to here. And I'm going to drop the exposure. Messed it up. Oh, I can just invert, right? So I can take the opposite of something. That part I think is kind of cool, right? I could create a mask that does a select subject. And then I'm like, well, I don't want the subject. I want everything but the subject. I can click on this invert on the upper right-hand corner. And now everything, I wouldn't do it that much, obviously, but everything but the subjects, which I think is kind of neat. The speed at which you can use these masks, and this is something just simple, right? So far we hit a button and we invert. So far it's been 2 buttons. Not bad. But that kind of stuff, I think, really starts speeding up a lot of your workflow. I'm going to pause for questions. If there's any other questions, we'll go ahead and we'll continue to let people in on the questions. Now, inside of here, let's see. I'm just going to check. All right, so no questions. Got it. We haven't even scratched the surface. Like, this is still just basic stuff. Watch this. I'm going to go over here to my grid module. And now what I will do is I will select my friend Latanya. Because anytime I get a chance to brag about my friend Latanya, I'm going to brag about my friend Latanya. Now, inside of here, I can go to develop module, and I want to be able to start working with portraits, right? So let me see. I can click on this button here. Subject, got it. I can do that. That's easy. Click on the three dots, delete the mask. Background, got it. That's pretty easy. I can bring the mask down and up. I'm going to keep that one just to be on the safe side. But now take a look at this one. I'm going to click on create new mask. And we've been using subject. Now, subject could be a cat. Subject could be something else. Oh, before I do that, let me do this. Watch this. All right. If I were to do a hot air balloon, right, and then I go to select subject, it knows that it's the balloon. I'm going to hit my grid module. I'm going to come over here, and I'm using different pictures of different resolutions. So Sean D, does it take away DPI? No, because all of this stuff is still parametric inside of Lightroom. So inside of here, if I go over here and I select subject, ooh, those handsome fellas. There you go. So that's done there. So it knows balloons. It knows handsome folks. If I look at this picture of my daughter and Santa Claus, if I come over here and I go to select subject, it knows that it's almost Santa Claus, right? It missed the boot. Okay. Don't worry about the missing stuff. I haven't got to that part yet. You're going to love it. Right? If I come over here and I go to develop and I go to select subject, it knows that it's that. So the AI that's doing a lot of this kind of stuff is actually pretty good about what it's working with. So I wanted to point that out because I wanted to make sure that people understood, right? With these three people here, subject, done. That's super fast in terms of work. But I want to get better still. Oh, here, I'll use this one, my friend Latanya. Got it. Go to develop, go to the brush, select the sky, bring it down, add some contrast, increase some temperature so that it matches. Good. Now, when I create a new mask, the one that we haven't played with, which I think is pretty game changing, is right here, select people. Inside of people, you'll notice that the masks change and you have this drop down that sits right here called people. Right? And it automatically scans and detects that there's a person there. Notice that it's called person one. It goes, look, I know that it is a person. I also know that it is not that person's camera. Pretty smart. But even better still, you click on this, and as soon as you click on the person, it breaks all of the individual components of that person. So if you want the face skin, notice if I hover over it, there's my face skin. If I want the body skin, hover over it, there's the body skin. Notice how it skips the camera. Now, there's some details that could probably be done better, right? But body skin's pretty covered. Oh, I need to do some eyebrow action. It knows where the eyebrows are. It knows where the eyes, the sclera, the whites of the eyes, it knows where that is. It knows where the iris and the pupil are. And lips and teeth and hair. Now, again, is it something that's 100%? Not necessarily, right? But inside of here, you can work a lot faster. So if I wanted to darken or do some stuff, or let's just say that I wanted to do a texture for skin softening, right? I could come over here and go, well, I do want the face skin. So that's now highlighted. I want some body skin, right? So that's now highlighted. And once I've done that, I can go ahead and I can create the mask. now that mask is done, and all I have to do now is just come over here to texture and drag the texture slightly to the left. So that takes care of this in 2 shots. I would say, okay, so Craig McCormick, hey Craig, the AI feature that excites me the most really is that, like, it's the people one. Having the ability to be able to do this pretty fast, or object, which I'm going to talk about in a second, are probably my favorite, because hopefully that sat pretty okay with everybody. Make sure that you mention it in the chat just so that we're aware. You can do that in just a couple clicks, right? So like, I love making pictures and I love working in Lightroom, but I don't love spending hours in Lightroom. So anything that lets me do that faster is something that I'm going to want to do. Now, I can make this even better though, because I'm going to find the best picture to do it with. Here we go. I'm going to do it with this one, right? So inside of here, this is my buddy Matt, and we all need to be able to do like edits, right, fast. So inside of here, I'm going to go to the develop module, right? Inside of here, I'm just going to grab this. I'm going to go background, whoosh, does the background, darken it. Not bad. Inside of here now, I want to be able to select the people, create new mask, select people. It identifies automatically all of the people that are here. Person 1, person 2, person 3. Inside of here, I can grab person 1. And now, what do I want? The entire person, skin, body, eyebrows, hairs, lips, teeth. Well, what do I want? Right? Well, I could say skin and body skin and eyebrows and sclera and iris and pupil and lips and teeth and hair. And notice that when I grab all of that, it says, well, do you want to create one singular mask or do you want to create 8 separate masks? Huh, that's pretty cool. I'm going to make one singular mask. I'm going to create a mask, and it's got it sounds like it was everything, but what it did is it just took all of these and it put them into one thing. But what if that's not even what I want? What if what I wanted to do was adjust the dress and the flowers? Now I've made that mask of just that area, and I'll just come over here and invert it. And once I've inverted it, then I can grab this and I can press this one here and then subtract the background. And then I can subtract people. Subtract person 2. And I can subtract person 3. Now I have just the dress. And I can make my adjustments as I need it. This is where I think the most powerful component of everything is. Your ability to be able to add and subtract to create the thing that you want. At any point in time, right, I can get rid of this mask. And now watch, if I wanted to make an adjustment for multiple people, I can say, all right, well, now I want this person, the entire person, and I'm going to add this person, and I'm going to add this person, and I'm going to continue. And inside of each of these, what do I want? Just their skin, just their body skin, just their eyebrows. And that makes it so much more powerful for you to be able to work. Once you have all of the stuff that you want, right? Like I want to be able to do an adjustment on all the teeths. Notice it says you want to create 2 separate masks. Create mask. I would not do this to them, but notice that it saw 3 people, but it only made 2 teeth because Matt was not smiling, so he did not show any teeth. That's pretty smart, right? Jordan Seltzer says, all these adjustments for the raw images only. Yeah, because we've never even converted them into pixels. The only thing that is raster based here is the masks that are constructed here. So you're adjusting raw information, which I think is fantastic. Now, Jay, do you prefer to use Lightroom versus Bridge and ECR for the masking of the development? Does it really matter? Not necessarily, and I'm glad that you pointed that out, right? If we were here inside of Bridge, I'm just gonna go rogue for a second, right? And if I were here, and God, I hope I don't have anything on my desktop that I shouldn't. Let's just go here, right? If I were looking at this picture here in Lightroom, in Bridge, if you open this picture, it's a camera raw file was shot with an R5C. If I right click this and I edit this in camera raw, the camera raw that you have here is similar for that AI feature here. Subject, sky, background, brush, linear gradients. It's the exact same thing. So if I wanted to do the sky and I wanted to drop the exposure and I wanted to increase the contrast, and that's not bad. That's because I'm working inside of camera raw here. Now, if I open this file inside of Photoshop and I move this file into the Photoshop space, note that when I am there, I will not have the same level of latitude in those raw files. I'm just going to go ahead and move this over here ever so quickly so you can see it. All right, Command 0. There is my file. I don't have the option for the select. Oh, you have the option for select. There's a couple of things you don't. Under the select menu, you have sky, subject, focus area, and color range. These sections in Photoshop do have the option to use that AI to be able to create that mask. See, so there's the mask. And inside of here, if you were to go into your layers, right, ¿dónde están my layers? Inside of my layers panel now here, if I were to grab a curves adjustment layer and bring that down, you are adjusting it. The problem with this is that using that select, by the time you get here to this one section, it already has been converted into kind of pixel stuff. And that's going to make it a little hard for you to get as much tone as you can. Can you do this in a pinch? Yeah, kind of. But I would probably prefer to work with this inside of Camera Raw, unless you were just doing it from a selection standpoint. Then you could use either select, color range, focus area, or subject, or use a couple of the other selection tools. And I'm going to talk about those in a second. Let's see. I'm going to go back over here. Those raw. Got it. Thank you. What are your thoughts on the adaptive presets in Lightroom Classic? Enhanced portrait. Not a fan. It's okay. All right. Don't tend to use them. All right. It's not bad. Now, inside of here, there's a couple of things that I haven't talked about. Hopefully everybody's okay with this. If not, you can follow the recording and make sure. I want to stop again one more time. Like if you're just picking this up now, I get it. Like it's going to be like you're drinking from a fire hose. If you've never seen this before, it's not hard. It's just a lot of information, right? The recording is going to be available. And one of the other things that I want to do, which I thought was really cool of BenQ, is we want to try to make this a series. So all of you who are here, if you are into it, you can let us know in the, obviously probably let us know in the questions now. But what we want to do is we want to be able to kind of just create like maybe not a weekly series, but just kind of like part 2 of all of this kind of stuff, right? I want to be able to have more of a conversation with you. Maybe you have files that you want to send me and you're like, hey, like, how would you edit this? Right? Maybe we can find a place where you can send the files. I'll edit them and we can edit them live. Or if there's something specific that you want. If I could find like an hour where we could all get together and do this, I think it'd be kind of neat, right? We could just have like a little class, like a little night school for this, and we can talk about all sorts of different things. So the more we were talking about this before we actually started, I was like, oh my God, we could talk about this and we could talk about that. And what about this? And I think that this would be great. We were talking about Midjourney and AR and AI. So Midjourney and Dolly and how do you use that stuff to be able to create graphics? So I was like, that'd be kind of cool. But let me go back to this, right, before I start rambling on and turn it into a 2-hour seminar. So we have that. We've selected people, we've added stuff, we've subtracted stuff. That's kind of neat. This is the other one that I think is crazy. It's so cool. I'm gonna grab, no, not Martin, although I miss Martin very much. I'm trying to find something different. Oh, my mom's pozole. Okay, so this is Mexican pozole. Okay, simple, easy. Yeah, so if you want to see more, or if you want to work on stuff, or if you want to be able to do a thing, let us know in the chat, in the questions or whatever it is. If you want to be able to work on this stuff, I'd be happy to get your thoughts and ideas on it. You know, I think it'd be cool. So anyway, so pozole is not necessarily a subject or a background or a sky. So if you go to the develop module, subject, oh, wow, look, it did do pozole. That's kind of neat. All right, great. But what if I don't want the pozole to be the thing? What if I want it to be this cup? I don't want to make a selection around this cup. Got a better idea. This right here is a game changer, the select object section. Once I click on the select object section, you have two options right here on the right hand side. You have a brush and you have a selection module. Huh, okay, watch this. I'm gonna grab the selection one, the rectangular selection, right? And I'm just gonna drag a box right here and let it go. Done. So all of the stuff that you have from an AI standpoint, I think automatically passes to this. Do you have to clean it? Yes, right? You could always come back over here and then inside of here, subtract it with a brush, make that brush really low, and then just beep, 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 beep. But now, bright cup, 2 seconds. That's pretty cool, right? Inside of here, I want to create a new mask. I'm going to use this object section. Now, the oregano container. Drag that. That's really tight in terms of a thing. Charles Gibson, absolutely, bye pen tool, but not. I want to show you something else, right? So inside of here, bring that up. So I alluded to this ever so slightly earlier in the class, and I want to see if it actually works, right? When we first started, we started with a picture of my wife and daughter, right? And I said, all right, well, what if I wanted to do the ground, right? I did the sky, I did the people, but I didn't do the ground. Well, what if I do this? Create a new mask, linear gradient, and I start the gradient from here to here. And now I darken it. And now inside of here, subtract, select subject. Oh, but I also need to subtract an object and draw a box around that object. Oh, I also need to subtract another object and come over here and drag this object. And now I have a lot more control by knowing that other piece, the whole select object section. That to me, and I have to pause just to kind of just point that out, like that to me is groundbreaking in terms of speed. Because what they've done here is it's not so much how well you can actually go around something, but more of the combination of things to add and subtract to get to what you need to do. That's probably the hardest part because you have to sit there and you have to take a look and go, well, what about this if I add this, but then I subtract this, then will it get me to that one section? Or what do I combine with those masks to be able to do this? So I think that that's neat. If there's other questions and stuff or comments, please let me know inside of there. Let's see. I'm going to open up something inside of Photoshop so that we could see that. And Bill, great to see RC again. Thank you so much. I never really went anywhere. It's just the Facebook algorithm was kind of weird. Um, Honestly, I'm just trying to open something up inside of Photoshop. But yeah, no, it's been neat. I've enjoyed my time as Professor Concepcion, which is, still kind of trippy. Um, but I have missed a little bit of kind of interacting on the social media standpoint. I was kind of a little bit burnt out post Kelby, and I needed a break from all of it. But I think it's kind of neat now. Like it's neat to kind of come back and just talk, right, for the sake of talking, and that I can do that stuff with BenQ. So I think that that part is great. So I'm going to open up a picture. Obviously, if you guys want to just stay in touch and do all that stuff, you could always go to um, aboutrc.com, or you can find me on social media or things like that. But I'm trying to find one more picture to show you before we go because I do want to be respectful of your time. Let's see. I think I want to work with this one right here. Edit this, and I'm going to edit this inside of Photoshop. Inside of Photoshop, I have two files now, right? I have this file and I have this file. Oh, I gotta do my color management. There's one file, there's another file, there's another file. Now, in Photoshop, you also do have an option to be able to create these selections, right? Right here, directly under the lasso tool, you have this option here called the object selection tool. It's in the same one where you had the magic wand and the quick selection. You have an object selection. The object selection works in the exact same way as that object selection tool that you have inside of Lightroom. Notice I didn't even do anything, and already if I hover over it, it makes that a selection. I could just click, let it go, and that makes it a selection. Or I can click right here, and that makes that a selection. That's pretty good. Command D to deselect. I can drag over an area and let that go, and that makes that a selection. If I don't like that selection inside of Photoshop, I can hold in the Option key and drag an area, and now it subtracts, which I think is kind of neat because of this whole sensei concept, right? Like I can come over here, drag this, and now that's a selection. So it really does redefine a lot of this, and I'm constantly learning about this all the time. I was just on literally like an hour before, no, about a half hour before we started. I was on social media, right? And I went on and Howard Pinsky just pointed this out, right? So shout out to him. Didn't even think about it. How many of you knew about Photoshop's secret content aware tracing tool? And I was like, oh my God, I forgot about that, right? If you've ever tried to use the pen tool, right, all you have to do is go into your technology previews and enable that tool. And now watch, let's try it. I'm going to go over here, technology previews. There's the content aware tracing tool. Click OK. And now we should be able to have it content aware tracing tool. So when we turned around and we said, oh, I want to trace around this, click, bye-bye pen tool. That part I think is really cool. So there's a lot of stuff that we can cover for this, right? Is this recorded? Yes, it is. But the object finder is in Photoshop options bar. Yes. Magic wand, more like tragic wand. It's obsolete. There's a lot of stuff inside of here that I think is completely obsolete. It's going to redefine. I would say that the 2023 version, with all of the stuff with the object selection, with people, with being able to use Sensei to be able to do a lot of this stuff with the people, that's going to redefine a lot of how we work in post-processing and how we teach post-processing, because a lot of that heavy lifting now is automatically done for you. So it might warrant a conversation where you go back and go, well, do we really need the magic wand? Do we really need the pen tool? Do we really need the lasso tool? You know, that can change a lot of that stuff. So before you go, right, I do want to show you this, right? So this was the thing that we were talking about. Thanks, Hallie, for sending this out. The Pantone Connect Premium, right? If you've already got one, you can get 1 free year of the Pantone Connect Premium. So make sure that you take a look at that. This is going to be really hard if you don't remember it, but I think that they will also send this out in their survey. So keep that in mind. I do want to just go back over here and just take a look at our chat here. Will it work with Palette Master? It should tried, but I didn't care for it in the tech previews. Yeah, I mean, in tech previews, it's like, well, you know, they're starting, right? Great, go orange, right? So I work at Newhouse now. So I've been there for a couple of years now as assistant teaching professor now. It's been pretty good. Where can I find the recording since I have to leave early? Thank you for the years of teaching. I appreciate it. Thank you all for coming by. Uh, it's been great to see all of you. I think that what they're going to do is they're going to send out a survey, right? So everybody who's registered and attended, what we'll do is we'll send something out, and I think we're going to try to send out a link that says, you know, like send us a file or what do you want to work with. I'll show you one more thing. I'm going to just take it just a little bit more because we started late anyway. One of the things that I wanted to do was inside of here, I've been doing a lot of work at the university with AI. So I'm doing like research stuff with AI. But I was like, well, what if I created like AIception, right? Like, what if I've been using like Midjourney and Discord and all of that kind of stuff, right? What if I created something inside of Midjourney, right? Something like so. And I created this thing and I open this in Midjourney. There's a lot of people who don't know how to use Midjourney or work with Midjourney. So maybe we can do a webinar on how to be able to create some of this stuff, how to be able to make some prompts of this. And then, I don't know, maybe make a prompt of this, open this up, bring this over here, then take these two files. And I know you can't see that. I'm just dragging them into Photoshop. And just grab one, grab the second one. And what if then I could turn around and crop this first one? So we have this one scene, then use the AI of Photoshop to edit the AI, copy that out, move that out into over here. And then, I don't know, maybe do like a layer, like a curves adjustment layer inside of here that gets grouped into this, and then start working with adjusting the scale and the size of all of this kind of stuff. So it's like AIception, which I think this, like a lot of the stuff, like this is not a picture. This is compositing work. This is artistic work, which is totally fine. But I'm like, my position on that stuff is like, what if we could use that as an inspiration tool, as a compositing tool? What is my email, my Instagram, everything that you can follow me on? You can follow me on at About RC. So I'll go ahead and I'll share this. Let's see. Let me do that one more time. I'll come over here, inside of here. So if you go to twitter.com/About RC, that's that. If you go to instagram.com/About RC, that comes up. If you go to facebook.com/About RC, that comes up. So anything with About RC pretty much is it. So stay in touch, right? If you're interested in the webinar, please let us know, right? I'd be more than happy to answer any kind of questions or talk about how to be able to use this stuff to get more creative and get you faster, right? Processing faster, doing stuff faster. So thank you so much, guys, for stopping by. Thank you for hanging out, and hopefully we can have some nice school soon. Take care, everybody.